So I've got the engine closer to completion. It's wired with the distributor. I gave it a wash of a white oil paint that toned down that deep dark blue. Now it'll still get a dirt and grime wash to it, so that'll make it look a little more realistic yet to go. But yeah, it's looking pretty good. And the distributor is kind of wired properly, but where the wires go into the distributor aren't really accurate because they're all just kind of lumped in the middle. But I did my best. But I think it's looking really, really good. One thing I modified, and I don't know if I told you all this in a previous episode or not, but this piece here with the cooling fins that runs off this belt pulley, I don't know exactly what it is. It's cooling fins for something, and then on the end, so originally this part just had a little plastic tab there, but looking at the reference photos, there's a coil that runs through the middle of these cooling fans, and the end of that coil is exposed as it runs through and out one end and back inside the other. So I snipped off the tab and then found a small piece of wire that I was able to bend into a half moon, and then drilled a couple holes and put it in there. So now that looks more accurate to the 1-to-1. So that's where the engine's at the moment. So this little piece here is the steering column, and this was the turn signal lever that came out the side. All right, and I just felt like it was a little too oversized, a little out of scale for my taste. So I snipped it off, and then where it was, I used this push pin to create just a little starter hole, and then from there I used my micro drill bits, these PC board drill bits. I started with this one, which I'm sure it says there, but I can't really read it. Anyway, I started with this little bitty one, and then I went up one more size, and I probably have drilled through probably a little more than halfway through the column all the way. And what I'll end up doing is I'll take one of these push pins that I have, and I'll cut it off, and I'll use that for my turn signal lever, the stick. And for that flare on the end, what I'll probably do is I will use this part of it. I'll cut off just that little flare at the end of it, and we'll add that, and then that'll get painted black. So the stick itself will be a chrome. I'll probably leave it unpainted realistically, and then the tip of that will be the black flared end. But that's just a little something that I felt would add a little bit more realism to the look of it. Like I said, I felt like this originally by itself was just a little too large and out of scale. Something else I noticed when looking at reference photos is the subject car that I'm using as a reference. The steering wheel only has, bumped the camera, sorry about that, only has 2 spokes in it going across. This third bottom spoke does not exist on that particular one. And the other thing about it is the center. So the center of the wheel, there's almost like a bullet nose with the center cut out. So there's a little bit of a raised hump, I guess. So I think I'm going to try to make this look more like that. Yeah, we're gonna try to cut that bottom one out, maybe thin these just slightly more, and figure out what we can do to add that center hump to it. Okay, there we've got the lower arm cut out of it, and that does look a lot more like what I see in my reference photo. But now I still got to create that domed center cap. So it's domed with a hole down in the middle where your Mustang emblem goes. You know, if you can kind of think of a hollow point bullet, it kind of has that look to it. So I got to figure out what I'm going to do there. I have an idea, I just don't know if I have what I need to do it, and that is some round styrene rod, so rod that's hollow in the middle. If I have the same size as that circular area, we'll use that, and I'll just round the edges over to give it that bullet shape. I think I did it. So I didn't have the tubing in the size that I thought I had, but what I found was this micro brush that I have. I've got a few of them, and you guys have probably seen these. They're for doing fine detail work. It's kind of like a little fuzzy end on it. Anyway, that's beside the point. The point is that it was the right diameter for what I needed, but it's not hollow, so I used my micro drills to drill down the center, and I kept using larger bits as I went until I got the internal hole to the size that I wanted it. And then once that was correct, then I just kind of held it at an angle on an emery board and just kept rolling it back and forth until I got the rounded over edge that I was looking for. And now I just put the glue in this, so it's still a little glossy from the glue, but you can see, hopefully you can see that bullet nose shape slightly rounded over. And then in the center of that, when we're getting near completion, there's a decal with the Ford Mustang logo on it. Now the decal itself is a little larger, so what I'll end up doing is using my punch set to punch just the center of that decal out to get into that hole for us. But this now looks a lot more accurate to my reference photo. Trying to plan out my wheel locations for my axles, and then I still got to make my leaf springs. These tires and wheels are out of the 41 Plymouth Coupe. The wheels aren't exactly what I wanted. These are the stock Plymouth wheels. I wanted something more generic, just a rim really. So I may end up trying to modify these to make it work better for what I'm doing. I haven't really decided yet. It'll definitely get dulled down. They won't be chrome like that. Just a dirty steel wheel is what I really want. So, yeah, I'm working on it. Progress is slow but steady. Interior is done. And it looks a mess, doesn't it? But it's supposed to. This thing's been hidden in a barn for 40 or more years. I think it sufficiently looks dirtied and aged. I mean, it is a shame that most of that won't really be seen in the end, but I know it's there, and now you know it's there too. Alright, that's going to do it for this week. Not as much to show as I had hoped, even though I spent a lot of time in the shop. It's slow going, and maybe I'm slower than other modelers too. I don't really know. So the car's coming along pretty well. The trailer, we'll get there with that, and then I've got to build the base yet for it. I got some of my 3D stuff assembled and getting ready for paint. So by next week, we should have quite a bit more to show. But thanks for sticking around. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. And if you haven't already, subscribe. Anyway, take care of yourselves. Peace and love, y'all.